there's lots of records that I love that
Don't make it. Yeah.
don't even get nominated.
Was the case. That's what it would be.
But that's how film is mixed. That's how 5.1 surround sound has been
Gotcha.
for years and years and years.
Gotcha. So all of the film nerds are probably like,
Yeah, yes. I was his assistant for 5 years, listening to records on those speakers.
Makes sense.
So when I started mixing my own, I hunted down a set.
What up, guys? You know who it is. It's your boy, Juan Miguel, and I am back again with none other than the Jon Blass. We're here in his studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're going to be doing a studio tour. So, man, thanks for allowing us into your space to kind of, see everything that you're doing here in this atmosphere.
Yes, glad to have you. Absolutely.
Man, thank you, man, for being a part of this thing. We got some stuff coming up. We're working on a master class with Blass and a whole lot of other great things that I think you guys are gonna really enjoy. So tell us about your studio here. Like, what made you want to go with Atmos? What made you want to do that? Talk about the speakers you're using, all those things like that. What drove this whole thing into Atmos, first of all?
Sure. So in terms of Atmos, it's been in the works for a couple of years and has been actually Atmos enabled for about a year now.
Okay.
This is a 7.1.4 monitoring, which means 7 speakers around, 4 on the ceiling, and an LFE channel, of course.
Jeez. So what is LFE for those who don't know?
Low frequency effects channel.
Okay, so it's like your sub.
Yeah. So, but a dedicated low-end channel, not just subwoofers to extend the range of a speaker, but a dedicated low-frequency channel. Like 5.1 would have 5 surround speakers and a sub-channel.
So one
that comes from film.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. I see. I never thought about it like that. So what's the difference between the sub? So explain it a little bit deeper. Like, explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Like, okay, you got, because I'm used to stereo pair and then I got a sub. Like, if I'm getting what's the difference between that sub and my LFE channel deeply?
So when you're mixing in stereo,
yeah,
and you have a subwoofer, you're mixing in 2.0. Right?
Okay, yep.
Your files go out as 2 channels, a left and a right. So the subwoofer in that case is just to extend the range of your speakers and help you hear the low end, the bottom of your mix better.
Okay.
My subwoofers in this room do that. They also handle the LFE channel, which is a dedicated channel. It's its own track, right?
Gotcha.
So so if you were mixing in 2.1, you'd say like you'd have a left, a right, and a third channel in your file.
Got it.
That's not a thing.
That's not a thing, but
right,
if that was the case, that's what it would be.
But that's how film is mixed. That's how 5.1 surround sound has been for years and years and years.
Gotcha. So all of the film nerds are probably like,
yes. Yes, and Atmos incorporates a LFE channel as well.
Got you.
Of course, it was born out of film, so.
Got it. So as far as like all of these amazing speakers, so you have 11 speakers?
11 speakers.
So which monitors did you decide to go with and why?
I picked the Atom Audio A7V, which is their newly released A-series speaker that replaces the A7X that I have worked on for years and years and years. So I upgraded my stereo pair and added 9 more.
Luckily, I got a chance to get his A7Xs.
Yes.
Did get a chance to buy those from him. So I have Blass's speakers. Now my mixes aren't going to sound any better than what they sound right now, but at least I got to claim the fame that I have Jon Blass's speakers. So I get to say that I have that. If nothing else, that's going to be like, when they stop working, I'm going to put them in one of those little boxes display box to show. Showcase when people come by.
I think they'll last you a long time. I worked on this for a decade, so yes.
Yeah.
But the A7Vs are the next generation of that speaker.
Got it.
They incorporate some newer technology.
They got like DSP built in.
They have some DSP built in. Yes.
So how does that software work with that? Like, what does that basically offer over the traditional speaker?
So all the speakers connect via Ethernet.
Yeah.
And you can open up, they call it A control on your
I've saw it.
computer. And you can control, basically like the dip switches on the back for low, mids, and high frequencies, like most pro speakers will have, as well as a couple other features. Like they have different modes on the back. I can't remember what they call it, but one of them makes them sound very similar to the A7X. Like confusingly similar to the A7X.
Interesting.
Mine are in pure mode, but you can control those from your listening position.
Okay.
So if you're setting up your speakers and tuning things and wanting to try things out, you're not walking around the room even to 2 speakers, much less to 11, trying to change dip switches on all these speakers and then coming back to your listening position, hitting play again, going, what did I hear before? Like, you know what I mean? You can flip it, you can A/B it almost instantaneously. There's probably a little lag.
So it's like a basically the switches on the back of it, but
you can
in
control
software.
them all from the software.
That's pretty cool. Because I had to do that. I had some speakers I had to set up. The ones you gave me, I had to set them up, and I'm going back and forth, like you said.
You got dip switches on the back.
Yeah, trying to make it work, and then sit back, and it's like it takes hours to try to get it right. On top of like trying to like learn the speakers and listen to run like 1,000 mixes through them just to see what they sound like.
Yes,
it's crazy.
The other thing I like that these speakers incorporate is they have SonarWorks, the capability to handle SonarWorks right in the speaker.
Okay.
So that's in the DSP.
Interesting. That's what I was.
So if you're a SonarWorks user, you can tune your speakers, and then you're not running a plugin. You're not running software on your system. It's in the speaker. Basically, customizing speakers for your room, which I can't think of a better way to do that. I've always had room correction as outboard gear. Because I don't like the idea of it being in the system. I want it to be. It's part of the speaker to me. And so the ability to do that is really cool. So I'm not using SonarWorks in this room, but if you're a SonarWorks user, which a lot of people are, that's a really handy way to do it.
That's dope. That's definitely dope.
Yeah.
So speaking of speakers, now the only other speakers that you have in here are these little bitty kind of bookshelf speakers. I noticed that Yash has those same speakers. Is there a reason why you guys use those? And what speakers are those? Because like we've seen those. I know I've seen them in Yash's setup.
It's an old Panasonic, shelf system from probably the 90s sometime. I don't know, a long time ago.
Wow.
And Yash,
like the little cassette player things, CD player, like
comes with like a 5 CD changer or something. You know what I mean? Like depends on the box you get or whatever. But like you like your grandmother would have in her living room or something. So buy it at Walmart or Best Buy or whatever. So it's the idea of a consumer speaker is to hear it the way that the people will hear it. Lots of people use different things for that. These are something that Yash found long before my time, and he liked them so much he bought a bunch of them. And so I was his assistant for 5 years, listening to records on those speakers.
Makes sense.
So when I started mixing my own, I hunted down a set for myself.
A set for yourself.
Yeah.
That makes sense because I use the.
Listen, I hope you are enjoying this conversation with Jon Blass. I got something really quick that I want to show you though. Check this out.
Hey, this is Jon Blass. You may have seen that I just announced my Gospel Producers Mixing class. My intent here is to let you into my thought process, my insights, how and why I do what I do every day to create the best art that I possibly can for clients that I respect so much. I get to work with some really incredible artists, and this is how I think about mixing and music and art and how I get to the finish line with these records. Click the link in my bio or scan the QR code to gain access to this class.
It's a little Apple, the HomePod. That's what I've been using as of late to reference on. Like, like I said, you'll bounce your mix down, or now, with the computer, that's one reason why I got the HomePod, because it connects via AirPlay from the computer, so I can literally just AirPlay. And I was able to actually set up an aggregate device with Pro Tools to where I could actually go through both of them. There's a little bit of a lag, so I have to turn off my speakers in order to hear through that. But it's kind of funky. I'll do a video on that one day, but it's kind of cool, like to be able to like play without bouncing it. Literally just hit space bar in Pro Tools and boom, hear from the HomePod. Being able to hear it coming out of that is pretty cool.
These have a line in, which makes that a lot easier.
I wish they did.
Yes.
God, that would be so
very few do. I've played around with doing it with Sonos before, because that's kind of what I use in the house. It's a very popular speaker. You see them with tons of coffee shops. You have to get the bigger one to get the line in though, which I have one of those, but I wanted to use the smaller one. A lot of people use little Bose like Bluetooth box that has a line in. Like there's a lot of people have different ones, but I've been on these for
for a long time.
long time.
So is it when you're mixing through them? Is it like the process of like, okay, you're listening on your regular monitors, and then you just kind of bounce to them just to kind of reference on them, and then bounce back? I mean, how is it incorporated into your process?
It's yes, but it's not like, oh, I just flip it over there and listen one time and be like, oh, okay, that's good. Like I'll work on those speakers for a while and then work back on the mains for a while.
Got it.
Sometimes it's more of just like a zooming out helper.
Yeah.
Like I will throw it on the littles and lay down on the couch and listen and just listen. Yeah. And they're always off axis.
They're
like
always off axis.
they're off to the side in my room. Josh always called it back mixing.
Back mixing.
It doesn't. They're not in front of you.
Yeah.
They're not mono. They're stereo, but like same idea essentially. It's like you're not listening in a stereo.
Because that's how most people.
Yeah, it's essentially.
Yeah, like it's casual consumer listening. Is pretty much like that. They're cleaning up their house. They're washing the dishes, making dinner, and they're listening to music.
Yeah.
And it's off axis. They're not standing in front of a pair of monitors or standing in front of a pair of speakers trying to enjoy the music, unless they're an audiophile.
Yeah.
You know, but most aren't. They're just regular people.
Yes. Yeah. And that tells you something different when you listen a little casually too.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been like feeling pretty good about it on the bigs, but you get kind of hyper focused sometimes, and you like, or you're listening too loud, or like, you know, all these kind of things play into it, and you throw it over on the littles, and they're listening quiet, and you get to a section, you're like, what? I'm missing something here. Like, where'd my energy go? Where'd my vocal go? Where'd my groove go? Like, something's missing, and so that, you know, that's something you want to catch before you send it to the client. So
that's value. That's value. Okay, so as far as speakers, because you got a lot of speakers, you got more speakers in this setup than you got anything else.
Yes.
But how do you connect all your speakers? Like, what interface are you using? All of that stuff like that. How are you making that stuff work together?
It's all being done in the Avid Matrix Studio, which is Avid's smaller version of the Matrix. And it is kind of tailor-made for a room like this.
Okay.
It's got all the necessary outputs for a 714 system. I think you could easily do 914
Interesting.
on it as well, depending on how many subs you're using and all that. But it also handles all the DSP for the room. So it has the SPQ card in it.
Got you.
Just like the Matrix is the smaller version of the SPQ card, which handles the delays of the speakers. It handles the EQs of the speakers and all that. So
and I think that's an important part that people don't know about Atmos, because I've been my little research into it, and you got to be able to do the speaker delays.
Oh, yes.
Because of the different rooms, like you just can't plug it up and just play them all at the same, millisecond. You got to like delay different speakers. So how is your delay compensation kind of set up, like with that? Like how do you know how much of a delay you have on each monitor?
I don't. I know they're all delayed to match the furthest speaker, which in my room, the rear speakers have to be a little further than ideal because of where the doors are. And so, of course, all the other speakers get delayed to match that distance.
Got it.
So that they all hit phase aligned, time aligned at your listening position. So we spent a lot of time during the install with lasers and compasses and whatever else. Yes, to make them as precise as possible in terms of angles and distance from the listening position and where they needed to be. And then the room tuning process, which Dolby came and did for me.
Gotcha. So you had them Dolby
came out and spent a day doing all the EQ curves on the speakers and the delays on the speakers. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty intense. Now, is that a service you had to pay for, or did they just do that?
Dolby just did that. Yeah. Wow. The install, I paid someone to come help me and do all that. But
Gotcha. That's dope. So you kind of got a combination of DSP that's running off of the Matrix and then the speaker DSP as well, and you're utilizing all of them together.
Well, the DSP and the speakers are pretty flat. I'm not using.
Okay.
I'm not actually.
Because you said they was in pure mode.
Works on it. Yeah. And so the DSP on the back would just be voicing basically. Like if you want to go in the I should have remembered what the acronym is, but which mode you're in.
Got it.
As well as the dip switches, which are just controls, digital controls for that. So so that all of the DSP for the room is handled in the interface.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what other pieces are connecting with the interface to make this setup work as well?
That's essentially it.
Yes.
I'm running a M1 Mac Studio.
Nice. That's my next buy.
Is it? Yeah.
That's definitely my next buy. Is the Mac. I waited for the Mac Pro to kind of see what they were going to do with that, and then I was like, Nah, it's just give me just Mac Studio. I'm just gonna
It
get that.
depends on what you're needing and what you're doing. I was running a Mac Mini before this, and it was fantastic in stereo.
Yeah.
Atmos takes up a little more DSP and resources than that, and I was wanting a little bit more power.
Yeah. See, I'm on
I wanted to work
I'm
around
on an
it.
M1 Mac Mini now.
Yeah.
And so I've been using that. So I bought it brand new in 2020. I was one of the early adopters.
Yeah.
And so I got that, and I've been using that for 3 years now. And like I said, it's time for me to.
Yep.
All right, it's time to expand. So Mac Studio is like the next thing that I'm probably looking to buy.
I love my Mac Studio. It's great. I'm running Pro Tools HD Native, so it's connected to that.
Yeah.
And that's really it. So yes, everything is done in Pro Tools. Yeah, and that's it.
Gotcha.
Super simple setup, clean and
Yeah, because very minimalist. So you use the Avid, or Avid. I always say Avid, like a video, Avid, but Avid. So you use the Avid. Was this the S3?
That's the S1.
S1.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I had an S3. That's the 16 channel one.
Yeah.
And I downsized when I
Downsized your desk.
when I downsized my desk. Mostly because I knew I was going to be using an iPad. Just logistic, different reasons. It made sense. I miss my S3. I love that thing. But the S1 does a lot of the same stuff. And
just a smaller footprint.
It does what I need, and I love it. So,
Got it.
Yeah, it's a great little box.
And then what is the iPad kind of function for?
The iPad is currently my monitor controller. So it's what's
Got
moving between my speakers and between my sources.
And is that Avid software or Avid software?
Yep. That's the Avid Control software.
Got it.
Yes. I can also use it as a second screen for the Dolby Atmos renderer or things like that. So yeah, I might get a second one. We'll see.
Oh, you can get a second one just to control that.
For an extra screen. But but I expected to have a dedicated monitor controller by now, but they had some production issues. So
Got it.
And don't have it yet.
Then you got the trackball mouse.
Yep.
I've never been it just has one with me. I've been trying to get it, but every time it becomes annoying to me. But you obviously love it because
I love it. Yeah. The thing I like most about it is it doesn't move. It's always right there. It doesn't matter how far you have to scroll or move or whatever. Like it's right there.
Yeah.
The biggest reason I got it and got that one in particular is because it's just in every studio.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every studio I walk into, they have the trackball, and then I get on it and I'm like, what is this thing? Just this little ball that But I know it's a science to it.
Is extremely valuable when I bought that for me to be able to walk into any studio and be able to work efficiently and quickly and not be like, oh, how do I work this thing
That's
again?
how I am.
So I wanted to be so comfortable, and so I bought the same one so that
Makes sense.
if I walk into any studio, and oftentimes in a studio you're on like a little cart basically, right? You got a keyboard and the trackball.
Yeah.
And like there's no room for anything else.
Yeah.
So you can't move a mouse around.
That's true.
So I'm assuming that's kind of why they use trackballs. But
That's true. That's true.
For me, it's comfortability and ease of transitioning between studios.
That makes sense. That makes sense. You just kind of sit down and know what you do. So you're pretty much completely in the box, no outboard gear, none of that stuff like that on your mixes. You're doing everything all in Pro Tools, just in the box.
Yep.
So what are some of the top plugins, some of the top in the box tools that you love to use that kind of make your workflow pop?
Great question. I mean, Fab Filter is like on every channel, the Pro Q3.
Okay.
That's kind of my default go-to utility plugin.
Love it. Love Pro Q.
Yeah, I do a lot of the heavy lifting of the mixing is done in EQ for me, and the Pro Q3, especially with the dynamic ability, is invaluable. So
nice.
That's everywhere for me. Wasn't prepared for this question. What do you think? I can't get away from the UA 1176 Bluey. Like that's just magic to me.
Just love it.
Yeah. And on certain things, the massive passive, same thing. Like it does its thing, and that's what I need it to do. I use a lot of like sound toys for delays.
Okay. Echo Boy.
Like everyone does. Yeah. Echo Boy. Verbs, I've been into Seventh Heaven, and everyone's got Valhalla.
I've been looking
these
at
days,
those.
So
I've been looking at Seventh Heaven. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but they're not that expensive. Those aren't that expensive.
You can get them on sale, which is nice, but they can be, and they're Atmos compatible.
Okay,
So that's one reason
sense.
I like that I can transition it seamlessly between my stereo mix and my Atmos mix. So I like that a lot.
Then of course the Dolby Atmos renderer, I'm sure, is like a lot of your work.
Yep, it is. Anytime you're doing I mean, anytime you're doing an Atmos mix, you're in the renderer, but
Yeah.
the renderer is mostly just handling things. You're still mixing in Pro Tools. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I do see that you use the AirPods Max or Studio. Is that what those called?
These are the Maxes.
Max,
Yep. Yep.
AirPod Max.
Yep.
So how do those incorporate into your workflow?
I use those primarily to check mixes in Apple Spatial. When I'm doing an Atmos mix, if you're listening to Atmos mixes right this second, you're probably listening on Apple Music on your iPhone.
Right, AirPods.
You're listening to Apple Spatial. You're not listening to Dolby in a room with speakers.
Got
So to be able to check Apple Spatial, I run the mix through Logic and play back in Apple Spatial, and I use that to connect to my AirPod Maxes.
Wow.
So, and I have it wired, so I can just plug it. I can just control it right on my iPad.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So you're just connecting. You're using Logic, connecting it up. Your AirPod Max is in there, and so everything's feeding from the renderer in Dolby Atmos, or you're feeding outputs out of Pro Tools into Logic. How's that working?
Out of the renderer.
Out of the renderer
into Logic.
into Logic.
Yes.
And then
re-rendering it into Apple Spatial.
Got it.
And then I can listen to that through my headphones.
That's cool. You're gonna have to show that one day because that
It's a little
sounds really.
complicated,
I can
yes.
imagine. We're gonna once we get on the other side of the mixing stereo class, we're gonna have to do a just an Atmos. Just even if we don't do a mix in Atmos, you just gotta show how you set it up. I think that's be really cool to see.
Yeah, it can get a little complicated to do, but to me, being able to listen to, so when you're mixing in Atmos, you're kind of mixing in 3 different formats simultaneously, which is hard.
Yeah.
You're mixing for the speaker format, which is Dolby Atmos is a speaker format. Dolby also developed they call it the binaural version, which is meant for headphones. And if you're listening to Atmos on Amazon or Tidal, that's what you're hearing.
You're hearing Dolby. Okay, gotcha.
If you're listening on Apple, they don't use that.
They use spatial.
Right. They take the speaker version and do their own spatializing of it, and they call that Apple Spatial. So they're using Dolby Atmos files, but they're doing their own processing to it. And it's drastically different. So to mix for speakers for Dolby's headphone version and for Apple's headphone version is hard.
It's 3 different.
And to do that, you have to be able to monitor all those things. So thankfully, with real-time rendering in Logic now, which is relatively new, you can rig it up so you can do that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Before then, we were printing it, importing it to the renderer, exporting it out as an MP4, sending it to your phone, saving it to your phone, then putting on your AirPods and listening to it that way. And by that point, you're like, what was I listening to?
Right.
So the ability to flip back and forth is.
And it's pretty much one-to-one. Like you've listened to, you've done a mix in spatial of what you've heard on your AirPods Max, and then when it came out and you pulled it up and listened to it, it's pretty much the same. It's the same mix.
It's extremely close. Yes, it should be the same, but they're getting slightly different sources, I guess. So because you can't.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different, but yes.
Yeah, all of the other stuff that happens once it leaves your desk. Yeah. Because it goes to mastering. Because are they mastering in spatial, or how do you master a spatial file?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ideally. Yeah. But this is still very much the early days of Atmos, and people don't want to pay for it, and they don't understand it, and they don't know what it is, and so there's a little bit of reluctance to hire. And honestly, mastering an Atmos file takes a long time, so it's more expensive than getting a stereo file mastered. Yeah. And and so there's a little bit of a juggling there still in the market. See, but yes, there are some excellent mastering engineers doing great work in Dolby, and I'm a huge fan. So
wow. That's so amazing. Well, you're definitely pioneering this area in gospel, I know for sure, because I don't know too many other engineers. I know of maybe one guy, one or two other guys that's doing anything in this realm, and I know you're probably doing the lion's share of Atmos mixes that we're hearing, or spatial audio mixes that we're hearing in gospel right now. So, kudos and hats off, definitely you for pioneering that and being able to see, having the wherewithal to kind of see where it's going, where the ball is going versus where it's at, and tapping in and moving into that. I think that's really cool.
Thanks. I'm excited about the future of it.
Yeah, I think
it's still, it's fun and also a pain. And you know, there's value versus cost issues and all kinds of stuff, but it's getting better and better, and it's a really cool format that I'm really looking forward to taking off. So yeah.
Love it, man. Love it, man. So last thing I'll talk about, I guess, because like your setup is very minimal, is all of these Grammy nominations, and then you got a Grammy award. I mean, what are some of the words? You got a lot of nominations in there. So what are some of the records that got the almost, you know, on them, and then the one that actually got you the Grammy on the table?
You know, the awards are great because they honor some really incredible artists and music, and that's really fun. And I'm really thankful to get to work with those people. But yeah, there's lots of records that I love that
Don't make it.
don't even get nominated. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of records that I'm like, and it gets great attention. So, you know, the awards are the awards. But yeah, I'm always thankful for that. So the one we did win was for the Fisk Jubilee Singers, which is a group dating back to the, I think, early 1800s.
Wow.
Yeah, must be. And they did a live recording at the Ryman Auditorium here in Nashville. And my friend Shannon Sanders works with them closely, along with Dr. Kwame, who was their music director. He's since passed, but yeah, but Shannon produced that, and I worked closely with him, and we put that together, and it's a special project. So, the Fifth Jubilee Singers are phenomenal. It's a tradition that's worth valuing. So
I love it, man. Love it, man. Well, man, thank you for letting us into your space and giving us the opportunity to learn a little bit about Atmos and learn about your process. And speaking of your process, we do have a mixing course that we are doing with Jon Blass, and you guys can click the link below. You can scan the QR code, whatever you want to do to check out more about that and learn more about Blass. And if they want to connect with you and follow you or hire you to do an Atmos mix, you know, or whatever the case may be, how do they do that?
JonBlass.com is probably the central hub. And I'm also on Instagram at Jon Blass. Keep it simple here.
But, there you go.
Yes.
Love it.
But yes, the website's the easiest way to get the right information.
JonBlass.com.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man, for letting us into your space. And we will talk to you guys on the next video. We out. Peace.